Good afternoon. My name is Pablo Montalvo. Many of you know me as the former head of the confirmation department with Our Lady Charity CCD. The reason as to why I say former is because just like many my age, I am entering the last year of my college career. And with it comes all these new life events and these new things on my load that is helping me finish my course. Another reason as to why was that sadly I wasn't able to join you all for the semester, just because, as we all know, the pandemic has been very hard. For many of us, it's taken a loved one. It's affected us personally. It's affected us employed-wise. It's affected us in any way, in many ways, that most didn't expect it to happen. For this reason, I'm doing the videos now because I came with an agreement with the director of the CCD on doing videos once I had the free time for that you guys can use next semester. These videos will be very simple, nothing too much, and they're pretty much meant to be as in a way, an escape from, the daily struggles that we're having, especially with us seeing the light in the tunnel. We're all ready to go back to how life was, and maybe it won't be the same. However, I hope that these videos help as we approach the finish line. To be vulnerable for a second, my condolences to anybody who's lost anybody and to anybody I've lost contact with, just to let you know I'm still here as a resource. In my case, I was affected personally by COVID when I contracted it myself, and I had also witnessed the passing of my father-in-law. Very good man, and may his soul rest in peace. And for that reason, I am in Mexico right now. A couple of months later, after I had contracted COVID, we are here in Mexico with our family and etc. For this reason, um, you guys will be having the greatest opportunity of Pablo from Mexico's recordings. So to pretty much start off the first video, we're going to be talking about Revelation. And what Revelation pretty much entails is the beginning to now. Many courses in your life will be able to offer you how Revelation works. It'll be able to offer you the best way to really dive deep into it, because Revelation cannot be summed down in one video, in one class, not even a semester or a year. It's really something that takes a career to really get the essence of. So for that reason, don't expect to know everything. And we're going to go over the little details, the surface of the iceberg. To pretty much sum up Revelation, Revelation is pretty much on the idea of how God has revealed himself to his people. From early days of creation, through the stories of the Old Testament, to pretty much the entire time Jesus was with us and how he revealed himself through his son, to after Jesus went to the heavens, how he revealed himself to the Holy Spirit, and even till today's world. One great recent event was the 20th century Our Lady of Fatima, when God revealed himself through the Virgin Mary to his people. So, to pretty much sum up Revelation, the best way to really understand is to go to the beginning. And the beginning is, as we all know, Genesis. And Genesis, in its word, in its own definition, paraphrased, is the beginning. Now, with us going through Genesis, I do want to also talk about how we should also approach the Bible. Do not take the Bible 100% literal. The Bible is like a library. And the reason why I talk about it in Revelation is because to understand how to go forward, you need to have a foundation. And with the Bible, some stuff is true in historical and scientific stories, and some will not be. Some of these stories will. And pretty much when you look at the Bible, take that moment to really understand that whilst there are some truths, there will also be some that are truth in a meaning. Kind of as how we saw the stories of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Another one could be Hansel and Gretel. Another one could be even today's cartoons, such as Spider-Man. All of them, while they might not be 100% true and some of them imaginative, these stories were meant to share a sacred truth, a truth beyond facts. For that reason, when people talk about the Bible of the creationists, that this is how it was and this is how it is, keep an open mind, because The writers are not aiming to change your philosophy, change your mind. It's meant to share truth. And for this reason, I will blow all your minds. With Catholicism, we have two creation stories, or a big dilemma there, because they both have different accounts. The first chapter that we talk about is the one when it obviously starts with, then there was light. And the reason why I phrase it that way is because God started with the word, let there be light. And it portrays a story that how God created the entire universe, our planet, our species, everything that's here in 6 days. And on the seventh day, rested. The purpose of this story, even if we can go through it, was designed in a way by the ancient writers to share the sacred truth that God is all powerful, all knowing, and everything he made was good. Especially in this story, it entails of how God created man and woman in their image and how they are connected. He also shows how, as an omnipotent being, he had a plan. He had the design ahead of him and how to make and how to go about with his creation. Now, that's the first story. The second story, which is the second chapter of Genesis, is completely different. It entails a God that is more human-like. He is creating the Garden of Eden. He is more in tune with humanity and the fact that he physically breathes life into them, and that he takes the bone of Adam's rib into Eve. And with it, pretty much what these stories entail is how human he is, how he's working in the gumbo, how he's using his hands as a human being would. Those are the two summaries I can make in the best way I can for those two stories. And they're very polar opposites. They're two sides of the same coin. The main purpose of these stories was not to make you fight or have a dilemma if to believe either of the two or even evolution. Because as Pope Francis said, evolution in itself, it also has truths. And me personally, it is another way of God showing how great he is, showing him how wise he is to make things over a period of time. But we're not going to dive into that in this chapter. Pretty much just to sum it up, we're going to be talking straight from the essence of what the Catechism wants. And those two stories are greatly promoted to show humanity how God is connected to us. In fact, the second story I explained of the garden was the first one. That was originally the first one. That was from the ancient Hebrews and Jewish. That's the story that they grew up with. However, during the time when they were captured and held in Babylon, the first story, which is technically the second, came out to really bring hope to the Jewish people of how God is all powerful and all protecting. For this reason, I believe these stories are the best ones to really entail how God interacts. Because throughout the Old Testament, we will see how God acts as if a force, to act as a divine presence, a superpower. And how does he protect his people, the tribe of Israel? And then in the New Testament, we see more of one of a human, one that is more ingrained with the community, one that speaks out about the experience. Now, most of you know me that I take more of a modern approach to our faith because many of the things that happened back then are happening today. For example, back in ancient Israel, Jesus was technically an immigrant. He had wandered around from his own home and went about other places in Rome. Technically, Jesus was not a citizen of Rome. Roman citizens was given to those with military experience, money, and in other words, at any point he could have been arrested. He also dealt with the militarization of the area, something that we see today with police brutality. And the main reason as to why I also bring all these major topics in is because religion can never be politicized, nor should it ever. And for that reason, I bring it up is because Revelation shows how it doesn't matter. Revelation is how God shows himself, not in the people who follow him alone, nor in the people who claim to be his prophets, but those that he had chosen throughout his time, those that he had chosen in David, Saul, many of the prophets and judges, Moses, This is the conceptual framework that you need to develop in order to understand these, because it really helps you understand how today's issues are the same as back then. The only difference is that we live in a country where our democracy is set up differently and our own ways of life is different compared to those before us. Now, coming back from my tangent, one of the major things that Revelation talks about is a covenant. And a covenant is a sacred agreement. They're to kind of help you summarize it. Consider it as a contract. Most people, when your parents bought their house or their car, or for many of you who are getting your first car, you always have to sign a contract, an agreement to understand what are you doing and what are you getting into. Now, for God, it's a sacred contract, a covenant, made multiple times throughout humanity. First from Adam and Eve, all the way to Jesus fulfilling them. And to kind of dive more into Adam and Eve, this will be the great way for us to end Revelation is, and I can go into many more videos with it, but to really end it, because as we all know, Adam and Eve, they fell. If they ate an apple, if they ate a pineapple, if they ate a watermelon, who knows? The issue with what happened with Adam and Eve was that they had disobeyed God. They had done the action. At times, a sin could be an intention, an action, and it's multiple layers. That's why sometimes morality is great. And that will be in another video that we'll talk about. But getting into the summary, that was after their fall. God gave them the first covenant. He promised them a savior, someone to redeem them, someone to bring humanity back to them, to bring forgiveness to the sin, our original sin that is forgiven at baptism. The main reason why I phrase it in this way in my speech is because from the very beginning, God planned for Jesus to come. And in the next chapter, we'll be talking about the Trinity, of how God is. But now that all of you now have an idea, creation was good. We are called to the covenant, to be good. And God has a plan for all of us. Whether it's fate or we make our own, it's as if a parent looking at their child. You can't hold their hand, nor can you make their decisions for them. And nor can you set in stone their entire fate. But you know how your child is, and you know where they will end up. For this reason, we're gonna be diving deeper and deeper into new topics. So this is just the introduction. I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch it. My apologies for it being a little bit longer than usual, and I hope it makes sense just to give you an idea before we dive more into the specifics. Besides that, thank you and have a great day.